is definitely springtime in the garden and everything is looking so lush and beautiful. But today I really want to talk to you about something that doesn't require any blooms to look incredible this time of year, and that beauty will continue from spring into fall. A few years ago, I really got addicted and wanted to plant all of the Japanese maple varieties, and in that time, I've learned a lot about Japanese maples and gotten to observe some things about their growth. So I wanted to share that with you in case you're just starting to explore the Japanese maple world or you're curious to learn more. So in this video today, I'll walk you through my collection of Japanese maples, what I've learned from growing them over the past several years, and also include some tips for planting them and choosing the right location for your Japanese maple. If you're not addicted to Japanese maples like me, you might not know that there are two seasons where Japanese maples really shine, and that is springtime and in the fall. In spring, Japanese maples leaf out with incredibly vibrant colors. Then those colors will often over time settle into a more summer color, which is often some sort of shade of green or a dark purple green. But now is really an incredible time. So I'm super excited to be making this video and showing off how gorgeous Japanese maples are this time of year. So there are many types of Japanese maples, and there have been many excellent books written about all different types of Japanese maples. So this isn't meant to be a comprehensive guide, but more of me sharing my experience and what I've learned while growing them. But just to share broadly, all of the Japanese maple varieties that are named, so names like Varieties, Peaches and Cream, White Peaches, Crimson Queen, all of those are grafted maples. Anything with a name has to be grafted because Japanese maples don't come true from seed. The way new Japanese maple varieties are introduced into the market is that sometimes Japanese maples will drop seeds and that child plant will have some unique property. That plant will be grown up and then grafted for sale. So anything that's named is grafted. Oftentimes at big box stores, you'll see things labeled as Acer palmatum and only that. And likely those are seedlings that have been potted up and brought to market. Those will never have a name. They're still excellent trees and beautiful plants, but it's not really worth trying to figure out what name Japanese maple you have because it is a seedling. Anything that is named, again, will be grafted and sold that way. So in order for this video not to go all over the place, I will try to organize the Japanese maples by types and share with you the different types of Japanese maples that I'm growing, and then also maybe things that I've noticed about growing them in the Atlantic climate in my garden. It might not be true for everywhere in the US, but all I can really do is share my experience. So this is one of two reticulated Japanese maples that I grow. Reticulated Japanese maples just means that the coloration of the leaf shows that veining. I love it. This right here is Peaches and Cream, or maybe it's White Peaches. It was sold to me as Peaches and Cream. Allegedly, if this gets more sun, it turns more of an orangier color, or if you like this light color, look for the variety named White Peaches. It's very similar to this. This leaves out really beautifully. It has almost reddish margins around the edges, and I would say this is a pretty slow grower. Now, I can't say if all reticulated Japanese maples are slow growers, but this hasn't changed in the 2 years that I've planted it, and the other reticulated Japanese maple that I've grown hasn't changed much in size either. Here's the other reticulated Japanese maple that I'm growing. This is Acer palmatum First Ghost. It has a very similar leaf shape and size to it. I bought this one first, hoping that it would grow faster than it did. And then when I saw the Peaches and Cream in a much larger size, I scooped that up because this was actually grafted in 2017, so now it's 2024. It is going on probably about 12 inches tall, and it is 7 years old. So I would say it's a pretty slow grower. Now, the next group of Japanese maples that I'm really drawn to are variegated maples. So these are going to be maple trees with leaves that have more than one color in it. Sometimes it's white and green, sometimes it's pink and green, sometimes it's pink and a darker red. There's so many beautiful different types. So let me show you my collection. So the majority of the variegated Japanese maples that I have growing in my garden I bought during my Pokemon Gotta Have 'Em All phase. Basically, I wanted to grow all of the varieties of Japanese maples, but I didn't have the budget to purchase mature trees, so I ordered a bunch of smaller trees online, hoping that they would actually grow faster than they say they would grow, and I'm here to tell you they are absolutely slow growing plants. Since then, I've scooped up larger sizes when I can find them and afford them, but keep that in mind as I show you my miniature variegated Japanese maples. This is Pink Princess. I bought this when my girls were going through a phase of loving all things pink, and it is now almost taller than the daffodil foliage. So good job, Pink Princess. It's a slow grower, but the pink and green combination in the spring make it really worth growing. I just wish it grew a little bit faster. This beauty is one that if I saw it in a larger size, I would scoop it up. This is Lily Ann's Jewel, and it's just a very striking, vibrant, almost true pink. This is one that's had really slow growth as well, but I'm hoping it might pick up as it's going into its 4th year. This Japanese maple right here is Butterfly. It's another variegated Japanese maple. It's absolutely stunning. Butterfly has a more upright vase shape, so it's a great one to add if you're looking to add a specimen tree to a more narrow space where you don't want to shade out any sun-loving plants below it. This was planted here 2 years ago, and it's grown in wonderfully. I would definitely say in terms of Japanese maple growth, this one is pretty quick. I was hesitant to add Butterfly to the garden because I've read different things online that said that sometimes Butterfly will leaf out more green and just look like a plain green Japanese maple, and other times it will leaf out more white. The 2 seasons that I've had it have been stunning, and I've seen a lot of white variegation. So I've never experienced the tree losing its variegation, but apparently that can happen. The next group of Japanese maples, I'm going to lump together Laceleaf maples and also weeping maples. I can't be forced to pick a favorite, but this group is definitely up there. So as someone that really likes to collect and wants to plant them all, I will very seldomly repurchase the same variety of Japanese maple, but this is actually my second Varieties, and I'm just such a huge fan of it. It's a pretty strong grower as far as Japanese maple growers go. So it's one that you can save yourself a little bit of money on and purchase it in a smaller size. I wouldn't purchase it in like a 1 gallon, but this was a 3 gallon, and it's already probably put on 8 inches of growth in the 1st year. And that might not sound like a lot, but in terms of Japanese maple growth, it's pretty huge. This one maintains its chartreusey color throughout the year. And if it doesn't get scorched throughout the summer, it turns a very vibrant orange. So it's best known for its fall color, but really I love it throughout the spring, summer, and fall. I'm not sure what variety this is. I actually got it from an estate sale, and it wasn't originally for sale, but I went, fell in love with the tree, asked if there was any way I could purchase it, and I got this tree for $20. Transporting the tree and planting it here in the garden was a whole nother story, but it's beautiful now, and I think it was all worth it. This Japanese maple came with the house, so I'm unsure of the variety. It could be Crimson Queen, it could be Tamukiyama. I can't tell the difference, honestly, but I do love how beautiful they look. And then this is the only weeping Japanese maple that I have in my collection. This Japanese maple will grow as tall as you will stake it, and then you can train it into really cool shapes. So I'm trying to train this serpentine. Currently, I've trained it to zig, and then I will train it back to zag, and again over until I get kind of a serpentine shape. This is Golden Falls. It is a relative of Ryusen, which is a greener Japanese maple, and it is absolutely stunning and a very fast grower. So this is another one that's kind of fun to pick up when it's smaller because you're able to get creative with it and shape it however you'd like. Next up, I'll share with you my 2 Shirasawanum Japanese maples. These are Japanese maples that have a much fatter leaf, and it's like a chubby good fat. Behind me is Acer Shirasawanum, Moonrise or Autumn Moon. It's got a couple of different names. This is what everyone told me to plant if I wanted to plant Aurea and have that electric highlighter yellow that I was really, really wanting and hoping for. It is a much better grower. This one has definitely grown since I've planted it, where the other Japanese maple I think has lost more branches than it has grown. I was warned that it would do that, and so I'm waiting it out. I'm hoping that now that I've had it in my garden for 3 years, I've entered the growing cycle where it's going to grow more branches than it loses. But if you would like a similar leaf shape without the drama, but a very different color, you can look for Autumn Moon or Moonrise. Like I said, I got this maple behind me first, hoping that it would quench my thirst for Aurea, but it didn't, so now I have both. Lastly, I do have a couple of upright Japanese maples. I think this might be a bloodgood. These are excellent trees that provide lots of shade. I don't have too many of them on my property because I do garden in a smaller suburban lot, but the ones that I do have, I love. They're really fast growers, and if you're looking to provide some shade in your garden, there are many excellent varieties to choose from in that category, and they're beautiful. And of course, not all upright Japanese maples are going to be these huge upright shade trees. There are some that are more compact and slower growing, one of which I don't even know if you can see. It is not even taller than the ferns yet, but that is Shana back there. Shana is basically shrub size. I think she gets up to 4 to 6 feet tall and wide, and she's a great one if you want to have the Japanese maple red, beautiful leaves, but you don't have the space for it. So right now she's tucked in here. A lot of the ferns on my property are actually volunteers, and I have to go through and remove them. It's a big job, so I've been avoiding it. It's one of those like, I'll do it tomorrow. But she's in here. I think she's a pretty slow grower. I haven't had her long enough to see if she grows faster than the variegated ones or not. But right now she's tucked in here, very close to this moonrise. I love the contrast in the foliage. Once she gets a little bit bigger, I will relocate her to a more prominent part of the garden so she's got, full room to shine. And then one of my all-time favorite compact upright varieties of Japanese maples is Mikawa Yatsubusa. It almost looks like a sculpture. This variety is incredibly slow growing. I bought the biggest size that I could find locally, and you can see it's still pretty small, and this is going on its 3rd season. I think it grows about 2 to 3 inches a year. I've never measured it, but that's what I feel its growth rate is. This one has regular schmegular old green leaves, but it's really the way that this grows that makes it so special and why it's one of my favorites. To me, it just looks like a living sculpture. And for me, if we were to move and I had to completely rebuild my Japanese maple collection, this is one of the first ones that I would purchase because it's absolutely stunning, and it also grows at a record snail's pace. So I want to wrap up this video by sharing with you kind of my top Japanese maple tips and how to plant, how to transfer, and I would say my #1 rule for Japanese maples is less is more. They do not need fertilizer, and in fact, some of the ones that are variegated can lose their variegation if they have too much fertilizer. So I do not do anything to my Japanese maples once they're planted. Now, in terms of planting, you might notice that most of my Japanese maples are actually planted along a slope. So I have a slope up here that I have dotted in Japanese maples, and the reason that I've planted them on a slope is because I have incredibly clay soil. I have very little topsoil in my yard. It's something that I'm working to build up over time, but almost everything that you see planted has been planted in red Georgia clay with very little amendments. What I've been doing over the years is adding a lot of mulch and organic materials to try to build that topsoil back into the garden. And in most places, it's really helped a lot. But because I do have a lot of clay, planting Japanese maples up on any sort of slope really helps with the drainage. These are plants that need good drainage and will quickly deteriorate if there's any sort of standing water. So that's why they're all on a slope. And if you also garden in an area that has a lot of clay soil, planting Japanese maples or anything that needs well draining soil on a slope is one way to increase the drainage for those plants. Now, in terms of conditions that Japanese maples like, most varieties are understory plants, which means they want protection from the afternoon sun, and they do best in kind of a morning sun, afternoon shade, maybe some evening sun environment. Along the edges of maybe a wooded forest, anything that offers a little bit of protection from the bright afternoon will keep their leaves looking their best throughout the season. Now, there are some Japanese maples that tolerate more sun than others. In my experience, the Laceleaf red Japanese maples and surprisingly also varieties has done pretty well in full sun for me. I don't often get a spectacular fall color change, but they don't get badly scorched throughout the summer either. Also, the upright red Japanese maples, those can handle a bit more sun. So things like Emperor One or Bloodgood, those do well if you need a bit of red in a full sun spot. So now that we've talked about planting, let's talk about transplanting. Japanese maples have pretty shallow roots and they're actually pretty easy to transplant. I've transplanted larger Japanese maple trees like the one that I bought in an estate sale, and then I've moved them around in my garden as they've kind of outgrown the spot or as I've thought of something else that I wanted to put there and thought of a better location for them. The main thing that you need to know about Japanese maples is that once they have leafed out, we do not touch their roots. Japanese maples, if you disturb their roots once they've leafed out, that seems to cause a lot of stress to the plants. They might drop all of their leaves, and sometimes the stress is so great that they do not recover. So what I like to do is if I'm planning on doing any sort of transplanting or any sort of major pruning or moving, I would actually do that in the winter when they're dormant. When they're dormant, it's almost like you can do whatever you want with them. And so that's really the best time to move, to root prune if you have it growing in a containers. Japanese maples are great things to grow in containers. Like I said before, they're really low maintenance, low fuss. They don't need a lot of water. They don't like wet feet. And really, as long as they have good drainage and proper light conditions, they are fine. So I hope that gives you some more information about this incredible group of plants. As you can see, I've definitely caught the bug and it's something that I could talk about for a very long time. I just think they're so beautiful, they're so low maintenance, and they have such a big impact. And one thing that I didn't know when I first started looking into Japanese maples is their true range of colors. Like, it's incredible how you can have a bright neon yellow Japanese maple all the way up to a dark purple leaf almost, to pinks, to some trees that leaf out all completely white. If you have a question and I didn't answer it, definitely leave me a comment below. I also want to know if you are obsessed with Japanese maples like I am. What are some of your favorite varieties and what am I missing that I should add to my collection? Right now, I feel like I'm good and the majority of my spaces are filled, but somehow you always find room for one more tree. Anyways, thank you so much for watching. Thank you for supporting my channel, and I will see you in the next video.